One. Welcome to Seeing Red. I'm Josh. I got Kevin here. And Kevin, what's got you seeing red today?
Well, as if last season wasn't difficult enough, bringing in the new manager and trying to figure out the new playing style right off the hop for the 25-26 Premier League season. Man United's got a very congested, very difficult match schedule right off the hop. I know that sounds right, like I'm making excuses already for what could be underwhelming performances, because honestly, the narrative should be okay, if your team is good, you can expect good play, you can expect to get a result and you want them to show up every single game. However, there are very serious question marks over this United team still, and a lot of them are residual from last season. But there's still a little bit for optimism. We'll definitely get into that a little bit more. But just taking a look at our first run of fixtures, we got Arsenal starting tomorrow. We got a little bit of a break with Fulham, Grimsby Town, and Burnley in that order. Then we got City, Chelsea, and then we got Brentford, who always know how to spoil United's
Yeah,
day.
Brentford are a tough team.
That they're just the team that they you never know what to expect with them. Of course, there's question marks with them with Thomas Frank now off to Tottenham. However, they still do have the capability to ruin any team's day, no matter where they sit in the table.
I mean, they've done they've been just really smart about the way they've gone about doing things, which like you have to respect because that's I mean that's part of what makes the Premier League the best league in the world is. I mean, I'm just thinking about last season. Uh, there was I guess there were the three relegated teams. But everyone else, I mean, Tottenham won the Europa League and came 17th. Um, the like
Yeah, we don't.
everyone came to play last season. I'm a bit worried that it's going to be impossible for like three teams to stay up and stay down, but like it's I just when I think like I look in comparison to like La Liga or the Bundesliga, Serie A is a bit more competitive, but then like obviously you got Ligue 1 in France. And it's like Premier League is just it's even like obviously the top teams can compete from anywhere, but the next uh like 13 teams are just mo like you don't want to play them and you can't rest players. It's crazy. And so like yeah, like that start you could get in a hole early and that's a tough schedule. And it's not normal. Like normally I feel like the schedulers wait until the transfer window has closed to schedule a lot of the big games, just because business gets done late and you kind of want the full teams to be the full teams when they play each other.
No, granted, honestly, I haven't taken a look at how the rest of the teams line up, the traditional top six that we look at, or even like, say, your Evertons or your Villas on top of that, what their match schedule looks like. But in terms of the games that are going to draw the big viewership, whether it's United Liverpool, whether it's the Manchester Derby, whether it's any of those, wouldn't they want to space it out a little bit for just viewership's sake to make sure that they maintain that? But especially just with the global appeal that United has, I would feel that what, why not space it out over the season as opposed to just try to hammer it very early on? I mean, of
Yeah, I
course,
mean,
Liverpool coming off of last season, champions, whatever, and City being gaining some of that global appeal for their plastic fans that came over from Chelsea. Chelsea and your Arsenals of the world, they still have that global appeal too. So in terms of front loading everything, which obviously that's going to have ramifications on the back end of the season. It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But again, we weren't in the Premier League office when that decision was made.
no, I mean, it could be because of your they could just have the computer spit stuff out by position from last season.
Yeah.
Um, so that I mean that although I mean I look at our schedule, we got our next two games are Newcastle and Arsenal, which like Liverpool
Ooh.
Arsenal third game of the season for us. It's a
Yeah.
big fucking game. Like it's gonna be
Mhm.
it's like but I also I do think there aren't any easy games in the league anymore. That's
No,
just
no, no. Whether it's the top, the middle, or even the lower middle part of the table, I think there's no such thing as a write-off game
yeah.
anymore.
I mean even like today we saw Sunderland win 3-0
Yeah.
first game.
watch that be their only result for the entire season. But you know,
Wouldn't be, yeah, it wouldn't be too upsetting.
taking the long circle back to United, which is kind of the direction we're starting. So, you know, I mean, it's obviously last season was nowhere near traditional United standards. And
I
there's
enjoyed it. I thought it was, I mean, one of my favorite United seasons of all time.
yeah, and you still couldn't get us on the second one, so we denied you a double over us. So I'll take that.
Yeah.
But
So, or Mr. Ralph Ranić.
yeah, so honestly, in terms of what these first few games are going to tell with United with this schedule, it's there's the buy-in portion from the players to Amorim system. That's those who've
Yeah.
stayed and also those who have came. And you know, there's been a whole lot. You just need to do a quick search of Mombeo, Matheus Cunha, and Benjamin Sesko to see how they're going to do in Amorim's preferred 3-4-3 formation. You know, there's speculation, as there always is with signings coming to a big club. Um, and so also just there was a common narrative when United came over here to the US to play their preseason friendlies. Bruno said it, and then Luke Shaw said it. They said basically there's no stragglers, no shirkers, no slackers. And so part of me is over here like, okay, excellent. I hate that that existed in the first place because that's simply not United's standard. However, comma, that also is a little bit worrisome to say, okay, well, is there any residual mentality that is carried over into this season, and could it, you know, have those knock-on consequences? I surely hope that's not the case, and you know, I'm definitely more on the optimistic side than otherwise because it's kind of hard to do worse than last season. Knock on wood. But you know, we do have reasons for optimism, and this is also a manager who last season he just completely said it outright. It's
Yeah.
going to be painful in the beginning. This is my system. We're going to buy in. We're going to be playing it this way. And we've not really had that from a United manager. I mean, you know, when we think of the Mourinho years, classic Mourinho, park the bus, score two, hope they don't score one. Solskjaer was kind of just, you know, plug and play. And, you know, there was a little bit of that from Eric Ten Hag too. But I've seen a lot more spine from Ruben Amorim than I've seen in previous recent years.
I mean, even like when I think about like Ferguson wasn't a doctrinaire tactician. He would very much change how you guys played based on who you were playing. Um, and if you, I mean, you look at early United under Ferguson versus middle United, like you look at the class when like the class of '93 was the dominant force in the team versus the like Ronaldo, Rooney, Tevez, even versus like the lost season you guys had with like Berbatov and Van Persie. Those teams all played very differently. Um, like it's been a I can't really think of a which I guess like that's just our age. I can't think of a United manager I've seen who was successful with set tactics, but also when I look at like the top ranks of world football these days, there isn't really any team that is, or any top tier coach who doesn't have something of a system that they play. And obviously, like things get more complicated the deeper you dig, but it does seem like tactical systems have become the dominant mode of success. So it'll be interesting to see what Amrin does. But it is like it's really hard to get um like when you have those culturally toxic people in your dressing room, it's really hard to fully excise that from a club, especially if you don't have like winning smooths a lot of stuff over.
No,
So it'll
there is, you know, the old adage, one bad apple will spoil the whole bunch.
yeah.
Absolutely. And then also in the United position, you know, with the Glazers being owners, of course, this is a narrative that's been told over and over again. But the reason is there's certainly a shit ton of validity to it. It is one of the core problems. If the owners are not involved and they don't give you that strategic initiative down to say, okay, here's where we currently are, here's how we're going to get there, and here's our resources, and by this time we will be expected to compete for the league. The Glazers could really give a shit because what do they care about? They care about the money that's coming in, the amount of money, especially, you know, especially when they were talking about selling a club, which they recanted on, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe came in and only took a portion 33% if memory serves me correctly. They see all the money that's coming in, so why would they relinquish any of their ability when they can just sit back and enjoy the commercial revenue that's come in and also just a little bit of the sale of the club? They don't
I
care.
mean, I mean, I think like you guys did make a pretty spectacular loss last season, and I think the lack of Champions League money is going to actually impact their bottom line. So you could see them doing a bit more that way, depending on both how they respond. And also, I think back to when FSG took over, we thought it would be a pretty, like, at least back then, I thought it would be a pretty smooth process to getting us back to being in real contention for the league. But it really was quite loopy. Would have good seasons, would have bad seasons. Some things would go better, some things would go worse. Would have players come in that were really exciting, and then would lose them, and then we had players come in that we were really excited about that turned out to not be quite so great. We had a few managers, but it was really Klopp came in, and then even when Klopp came in, we had to like there were when I think of like the first trophy or the first season under Klopp where I really realized like, oh, we could actually do something was 2018. And 2018, like when I think of our team then, you had Karius and Mignolet in goal. Karius was a Klopp signing. Mignolet predated him. Um, in I guess in the season, like we got Van Dijk during the season, but Trent and um, Robertson came in that season as Klopp players. Matip and Gomez and Lovren and I think Clavern all predated Klopp. Although actually Matip might have been an early Klopp signing.
You know,
Um,
and on that note too, especially like you were saying, it was Jurgen Klopp. The manager certainly plays such a crucial role there. But
yeah,
also from the ownership side too, that was also, when FSG came in, what I saw and what I believe, from what it looks like for me as an outsider, it looked like this is smart spending to fill these positions that we've had issues with, or we simply just have not had a player that can play up to that standard. So,
yeah,
the manager certainly is that backbone, but if he doesn't have the resources and the
no,
direction to
absolutely.
guide, then
Yeah. And it
like
takes a few years for a manager to like fully refresh because it's very rare a manager gets a whole new squad unless you're Chelsea and you just sign 20, 30 players a season. But it takes quite a bit of time to realize who is up to the standard and who isn't because like and then even like once you've got who's up to the standard and who isn't, who knows the system, who doesn't. And even like FSG there was quite a bit of learning that went into what they were doing. I remember when they signed Henderson and Stuart Downing. Obviously, Henderson and Charlie Adam. Henderson turned out to be a spectacular player for us. Um, like truly a legendary captain, but he very much wasn't the player. The way they chose those players was they looked at who got off the most shots. And it took a while for them to figure out what actually works and what doesn't, which like led to further smart signings over time, um, which really benefited us. But it is, especially in a world where you have City, you have Chelsea, you have Arsenal. I mean, even like we're spending like drunken sailors right now, which we've made the money, we're following the FFP rules, but we are absolutely spending. Um, and it's to move up is really tricky. I mean, you're seeing Newcastle. Obviously, Newcastle doesn't have the appeal you guys have. It's how you've been able to get players like Sesko. Um,
notably the Sesko transfer. I think,
yeah,
honestly, not to get too far off on a tangent there, but the United appeal really is something that we us fans take for granted. Still, we can still get these names, especially showing that when Newcastle's here in the market and they have the cash, but simply they just do not have the pedigree and the appeal for these players coming in. That is certainly a weapon we have, but not one, unless we get the results, which I'm certainly cautiously optimistic for this season. But, we have to get the results if we're going to, getting more players in to fill whatever gaps may emerge, and then ultimately become competitive for the league and those bigger trophies down the road. So honestly, in a brief recap, I'm cautiously optimistic for this season. And, I think this packed schedule right off the hop is going to be very kind of telling as to how this newly shaped United team under Amorim is going to go. So, I think we have more to be excited for than not. However, we are certainly have indicators right away as to how it will go, how the
Yeah.
season's going to, how the players are going to line up under Amorim's direction. How does the system work in this Premier League setting, especially against tough opposition right off the way? So again, I may be seeing red on how busy and tough this schedule is going to be right off the hop, but I certainly have my reasons for optimism, and I don't think they're too unfounded. So definitely a little bit of a ramble on that one. So Josh, I'm going to turn it to you. What's got you seeing red?
I mean, this is something that will probably be an ongoing theme for us, as it has been an ongoing theme for everyone I know who's been watching the league for the last 5, 6 years. And it's just the old boys club. Um, I mean, England is a bit of a mess of a country, but like there's still that. Uh, there's that clubbiness in a lot of the elite institutions, and I think it's really exemplified by the PGMOL. And I think of our game on Friday, where there was the incident pretty early on where probably should have been called back as a handball and a denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity. I mean, it was tough for the ref to see. And I do get the like VAR was trying to move quickly. The first two angles we saw, it looked like, oh, it didn't hit his hand. It just like bounced up and hit his arm. And so I was like, oh, good on VAR getting it done quickly. Third angle, you see he's like reaching out with his hand and trying to hit it. And that's like, ooh, that like should have been. Um, but then like VAR, so that they move quickly, they get it wrong. Um, Honestly, like the moving quickly and getting it wrong, that's bad, but it's not terrible. People make mistakes. But then they come out like 15 minutes later with a statement saying, oh, it wasn't a clear goal scoring opportunity. It was like something slightly less than that. So it wouldn't have been a red. So VAR couldn't have intervened anyway. Which like that's complete bullshit. And it's what it speaks to is it's like it's the palatable fear of saying that you made a mistake, which like I don't know. If if VAR Like, I think when VAR started, they wanted to get everything exactly right, and
Yeah,
they still didn't, and they took a really long time.
yeah,
And I think now what they're trying to do is they're trying to just be a bit like if you're instead saying we want to be a bit more accurate, we
hmm
want to like clear and obvious mistakes, and we want to get them done fast, and we're going to try, but we're not always going to get it right. I think fans would be a lot more understanding if they were like, yeah, we're still human and we're trying to get it done as quickly as possible to not interrupt the flow of the game. I think like I personally would be a lot more forgiving of that than the presumption that they can get everything right and therefore that they don't make mistakes when they clearly do make mistakes. Because like people make mistakes all the time.
yeah.
That's and like
And that's a hard job, honestly. As
yeah,
much as much as I
yeah,
don't agree with, just the way refereeing's been.
yeah.
You and I, it was last season, the season prior, it's been kind of a nonstop. Did you see this? They got it wrong. Did you see this? They got it wrong. Did you see this? They got it wrong. VAR certainly, one of the big portions in there. And I think we've even joked that we could have like a 20 volume set of missed calls by the referees across all Premier League games last season.
Somehow none of them ever hurt Man City.
Honestly, yep.
But that's not where we should go today.
Pending a legal case. But
Yeah,
but yeah, no, it's referees they across all sports. You're never ever gonna find a sport where the fans are like, yeah, the referees, they're great. They made the right decision all the time. They make the right decision all the time. We love the referees. And especially, the referees in the Premier League, they're under so much scrutiny to get it right. And so I just really wonder, just from the psychology of your basic referee, how much is that in the back of your head? If I don't call this, I'm going to absolutely get flamed alive in the media. They are going to absolutely come after me. Not only that, but you also have the VAR referee who's over there saying, come see this, it's that,
Yeah.
questioning the decision. So, there's so many factors going in here, but I'm just wondering, I don't have the answers as to genuinely what can be done about refereeing because, there is a problem. It's been spoken about from fan bases of every team in the Premier League. This is not just like, okay, maybe some voices are louder than others, so it may seem
Yeah.
that way. But fact of the matter is, every fan base is going to have, they're going to come out and say the referee they've been getting this wrong. It's always us. It has been brought up, and I don't have the answer as to what can be done, but there clearly is a problem.
No, but I do think one thing that makes it a lot worse is just like the arrogance of the association, like the referees organization to be like, we are above reproach. Um, like we cannot be questioned. And like I do think that they like I think like number one, I think they make it too restrictive. Like it's the Premier League is the best league in the world because they get the best talent from everywhere else in the world. And it is one thing that I did find out recently, which is like Premier League refs are not paid particularly well compared to other refs in other countries. And then also like basically every Premier League ref is English. Um, it's like get the best talent from around the world and pay them what they're worth, but then also be a bit more, I mean, to quote the famous Erling Haaland, be a bit more humble. Be willing to say, like, we're trying to deliver the best, both quality of decision making and quality of watch. And so that means that they're not because like so a lot of people bring up TMO in rugby, but rugby is a game that does stop and start a lot more often. And as a result, you can have those longer breaks for the referees to get things exactly right. You don't want to have a 3, 4, 5 minute break on a subjective penalty decision. Sometimes because there are, I mean, we've both seen a lot of moments where you're like you see a decision made and it really could go either way. Um, it's like I'm not sure that was enough time for the ball to get away from his
Yeah,
arm, but
if
it
it's a
did
clear
hit him
coin
straight in
toss,
the hand.
a coin toss
Um,
call, you don't know
yeah, so
exactly which way it should go. Yeah,
those happen all the time, but I wish there was I wish the refs were a bit more willing to come out and actually say this is something where and also just be a bit more accountable. Like it frustrates me to no end when you see people who make bad decisions again and again get the biggest matches. It's like there don't seem to be consequences for doing a bad job, and there also don't seem to be like rewards for doing a good job. Um,
yeah. I
like
remember, honestly, in terms of, and this kind of goes back to what you were saying about, the why aren't we getting the best referees available? And I've spoken to you about this before, but the National Hockey League here in the U.S. and Canada, they did the right thing when they knew that they were going to have a problem. There was in the early 2000s, they knew the referees were going to go on a labor strike, and the league needed to keep going. So the NHL started doing this thing where they would go down to all the teams and say, okay, look, you have a lot of kids with some good talent, but who knows the game extremely well, but they simply just don't have the playing ability to make it into the league here. And so what they did was, the kids, they started looking at this, these are 18-year-old kids, right on the threshold of making it into an NHL tier team. And so what they did was they said the coaches basically said, "Hey, I got these kids here," and what they found was, the kids, they kind of also they would probably know that maybe my playing ability is not up to par to play in the National Hockey League. But what they do is the league's now given them a chance to stay in the sport they love. They understand it, and then you mold them into being excellent officials. Of course, normally Canadians, will complain
Yeah.
about NHL referee calls. However, I think, the NHL, they did that correctly. And so I would like to see something repeated in the Premier League, but, that's definitely a tricky proposition.
Yeah, I mean, don't love the union busting, but I do love the initiative. And I like, so also like the NBA also doesn't have great refs. Although that's could be other issues going on there. But one thing they do that I think is really smart that I think other leagues should adopt is after every game they come out with what's called a lost 5 minutes report, where they essentially they like publish a thing like publicly that anyone can see of the lost 5 minutes of a game, every single call that was made, and whether it was right or wrong, or like sometimes it is subjective. And they actually internally they do that for every single um, was it for like every single game. They don't release the full game logs, but they release the last 5 minutes. And then they score those. And at the when it gets to the playoffs, the only people who get to work the playoff games are the people who are rated highly. Now, I wouldn't like the quality of reffing in the Premier League is honestly better than the quality of reffing in the NBA, but that's beside the point. But like that sort of mechanism seems like it would be a good idea to have and a good idea to like publicize that it exists because that's another thing I think for a lot of us we just feel like there's no communication from the refs about what they're doing and why, with the exception of like occasionally they'll like send something to the broadcasters that they'll like read out mid-game, but that's or like they'll do ref watch every once in a while, but that's not a consistent communication pattern. And I think people are a lot more forgiving of errors when you communicate about what has happened and what would be going on with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the brief recap on what we've said is really, there are solutions out there. We don't have them, but the league really needs to look into this because there
Yeah.
clearly is an issue with what's been going on in the Premier League, not only, for last season, but this has been going back a ways. So ultimately, we want answers and there are solutions. We don't know what those look like, but we'd like to see something done.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. So I guess we're gonna move on to what happened this summer. I guess yeah, you talked a little bit about the transfers United made, but like talk about more what you saw, what you liked, what you didn't like. I'm guessing we didn't like the same thing, but why don't you lead in with that?
What I liked was letting a lot of kind of dead wood in the United squad go. I mean, there's still more to be cut. I mean, Sancho's in limbo. There's always the rumors coming out about him where he might go. Is United going to take a loss on it? But it seems like there's been a lot of players transferred out. There's been ones who've been loaned out, and we brought in some good talent. So that's what I really like to see from United this time. It seems like there clearly is a very quite a concerted effort to move in players that are United quality where we expect them to be and removing those who clearly are not up to that standard. Of course, some are revealed over the course of a season as time goes on. So it's always tricky, but nonetheless, getting rid of what's been deadwood for a while is what I really do like to see. And I'm excited to get both Matheus Cunha from Wolves and Mumbai from Brentford because these are players with Premier League experience. There will be no surprises for them. They know the stadiums, they know the opposition, so those guys are going to come into the squad already knowing what to do. In terms of, I shouldn't say knowing what to do. They're going to come into the squad knowing what to expect
Yeah.
from the opposition teams, and so it's up to them to become a part of the Amarim squad. And then also, Sesko being the big recent one. It's we've got us a new striker. He's also got some height about him. So maybe we can finally score from a set piece. Maybe. Knock on wood for that one for sure. And turning to really just focusing on what we didn't like, the Club World Cup. Why? Just why?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's really like number one, it was so hot. Like I felt bad for like it's hard to feel bad for people who are making thousands of dollars or tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars a week. Um, and it's like I guess, but it's just and it's like it's always nice to see a game, but it's too much for these players. Like you think of what players are going to have to deal with now. They've got their full club seasons where the best ones are going to be playing as many as 60 club games a season. Then they've got the like continental trophies, which like the Euros or CONCACAF. Um, then like
Well,
there's also the
2026, you know
fucking
what's coming up?
what? Oh, the bigger World Cup. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right on the horizon here. And
So
also
yeah. Oh,
that's also going to be here stateside, but also, just on the Club World Cup, not to cut you off for anything, but
yeah.
just for those who are not in the know, where the games were played, it ranged anywhere from, the upper 80 degrees Fahrenheit and all the way into the hundreds. And if we do get any viewers from any other part of the world, that's going to be, the lower 30s in the Celsius, pushing into the 40s. And
Yeah.
especially, any games that were played on the East Coast of the United States, it's very humid here.
It's
So
extremely
whatever that
humid.
temperature is, go ahead and up that, because it's muggy, it's a whole lot. And so, it really becomes, adding in these extra fixtures. I know a lot of the initiative is how do we, bring the product to the fans who don't get the privilege every now and then, because, for Josh to go to Anfield or for me to go to Old Trafford, that's about a 6 hour flight plus a layover for another hour flight. And
Yeah.
so going
And
to
yeah, and we're like neither like yeah, Old Trafford and Anfield, you're not able to get tickets through normal standards, so you're gonna have to do hospitality, which is 250 plus per ticket. Which like if you compare it to the price of a flight, still not that expensive, but it's the type of thing you can do at best once every few years. Which is like that's hard to do. Um, but at the same time, I remember, so my dad and I went to a game at Anfield in the 2016-17 season, and it was awesome. And like the team, we went to a Liverpool Man City friendly in New York in the summer of 2019, and or no, sorry, summer of 2018. Wait, yes, I think that's right. And afterwards, we got out and we were in the parking lot of MetLife Life Stadium. And my dad said to me,
I saw United
"You
there.
know
Yeah.
what? Oh, yeah, but he said to me, you know what? I think we should just save up to go to Anfield every once in a while. We don't need these because it's it's so much like and you've been to Old Trafford. The experience of being in the stadium with the fans who loved it for a game that matters is something that cannot be recreated. Which is why, like the I honestly like the value proposition of flying to London, train to Liverpool, hotel room in Liverpool, hospitality tickets, and everything back. It's worth it. It's
Yeah.
not something I can afford to do very often, but it is worth it. And to the fact that we are putting like forcing these players are basically working year round and they're playing more games and at a higher intensity level than anyone ever has. I don't think we're going to see anyone be able to play as long as Ronaldo did. And obviously, Ronaldo is an athletic freak, but it's also just this you never get time off. So you're just constantly going and you're constantly sprinting and stopping and sprinting and stopping and sprinting and stopping. You're traveling. Like traveling takes no, obviously, these players are flying private jets, best accommodations, but it takes something out of you. And I mean, it's like so like we think back to last season. Obviously, we won the league, and I think we were the best team. But that season was hugely
Sure.
impacted by the fact that Rodri was injured. Um,
Yeah.
the
And
season,
yeah, and just
yeah,
before, while I have the thought in my head, so
yeah,
in terms of what you were saying, seeing your team, you know, abroad, which for them would be coming here to the United States, whether they're playing in Asia or something. So I've seen United over in Europe 3 times. Once was in Moscow, that was a Champions League game against CSKA Moscow, and then twice at Old Trafford. And I've seen them twice here in the US. It is a clear difference what you're going to see when you actually go to see them in Europe when they're fighting for an actual title, as
Yeah,
opposed to here in the US where it's like, we're kind of showing our faces and, giving back to the fans. I mean, it's great for that contingent of fans that can't travel and,
yeah,
make the slight trip over. However, again, that has to be weighed against what's the wear and tear on the players here and there. I don't want to see somebody get injured in preseason and then all of a sudden, we're only going to see them come the new year,
yeah.
especially they've had very little time. So, I don't know. I understand the math is, okay, well, we can earn X amount of money by going overseas and we can expect, Y and Z from the ticket sales and, the merchandise sales, whatever it might be. But it's simply just, for the fan who watches, the entire season, it just, in terms of balancing the equities, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean it's also like um when you go to like those friendlies, you're not going to be in amongst a throng of fans who really care about your team because they're also
Yeah,
like,
you can hear when people know the
yeah,
chance and when they don't, as opposed to
yeah,
Anfield or Old Trafford, where you have the chorus of fans.
yeah.
They all know it. We all know it.
But it's, yeah, I mean it's also like, and I get it because I've been to a few games at M&T Bank Stadium that were two teams that neither of them were Liverpool. But I wanted to go see some like better players than you can see at an MLS game. So like there were a lot of people there who were fans of other European teams and just wanted to go see a game with some of those
Yeah,
players, which is really cool. But it's not the same as being in like the tickets I had at Anfield, they weren't in the Cop, but they were like they were on one of the stands right next to the Cop,
mhm.
and I was surrounded by Liverpool players. Everyone was passionate. Everyone cared about the game. Everyone
Proud
cared
of my
about the
Liverpool
players and the
fans. Yeah.
results, and they cared about the result. So when moments happened, and it was a game against Stoke, and I remember Stoke went up first, and I remember like everyone was devastated, and then we came back and won, and it was awesome. And like we didn't like, and the game I saw at MetLife, that was Liverpool City, uh, and we were about to go into what, in my opinion, is the greatest title race of all time, the 2018-19 season. And we like actually you came to my house to watch the Liverpool City game that winter.
Yeah, yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
And like
fun.
that experience with you was it was more intense when it was just you and I sitting in my parents' basement than when I was at a game watching those two teams play in a friendly.
And while we're on the topic of the Club World Cup specifically, I know that they're trying to create this big incentive, have teams play for. Chelsea got money for winning it, bastards. And
Yeah.
but the thing, I went to two Club World Cup games in DC. It was at Audi Field. One of them was Juventus, and they were playing some. I can't be bothered to even look up the team's name, but they were from the UAE, and so you have a lot of Juventus fans, and then almost nobody for the other team, and Juventus pumped them for 6 goals. But
Yeah.
everyone's there. It basically is like when you're watching a golf game, and someone makes a good shot, just
Yeah.
fantastic. You see, like just that passion isn't there. I mean,
Yeah.
got it. I mean, if your intent is to get these clubs from everywhere and have them compete, you're going to have games like that. But just, the passion simply isn't there for this.
Although there was also that, but like, how did Inter Miami get into the Club World Cup?
Do you
Um,
really think they were going to not have
yeah,
Lionel
I know.
Messi playing the Club
No,
World
I
Cup?
know, but like that's so it's just like, all right, like if you're showing us it's a joke with that sort of thing, why are we incentivized to care? And like it's also like
Ego.
you got the nation like, but there's all these new random ass like that. What the fuck is the Nations League? Like
I wish I fucking knew.
I'm glad Jota got to win a trophy with Portugal,
Hmm.
but like the Nations League, I don't care about that. Like there, and so I know that like obviously this also has to do with the fact that the U.S. men's national team is just not that good.
Mhm.
And so as a result, like we aren't going to see the U.S. team win the World Cup. Well, we might if there's something shady going on. But like the U.S. the barring something probably terrible happening, the U.S. national team is not going to be the best team in the world next summer's World Cup.
And
Um,
Josh, you brought up something in that last one. I was thinking maybe we'd wait till the end for
yeah,
this one, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention what did happen with Diego Jota and Silva. What was his name again?
Andre Silva, his
Andre
little
Silva.
brother. Yeah,
Honestly, this is just one of the most tragic things that happened. At the moment, that's when we saw all rivalries simply just drop, just for them to pay their respects and their tributes to guys who are younger than both of us. Diego Jota, he made a lot of people happy. He was simply somebody that he played day in and day out. People watched for him, whether it be in the Portugal or Liverpool setting. He was, that loss was felt across the Premier League community and then even further afield there. And so it was nice to see everyone
yeah,
come out in support of not only his family there for the club. There was a very nice tribute put out there in Anfield. And then even it's continued a little bit with the news that the Chelsea players they were forfeiting some of their bonus for the
yeah,
club to give to his widow and his kids there. So
yeah.
it's these tragic things happen. It's very unfortunate when it does, but it just shows that the fans there's a clear understanding of when things are larger than the game itself and the rivalries get put aside. So I just thought we would mention that because, one, he came up, and I think we'd certainly be remiss if we didn't.
Yeah. No, and I mean, honestly, like it was one of those moments where you kind of do realize that football fans, it's the world's biggest community. Um, because it was legitimate, it was everywhere.
Mhm.
It was, it felt like it's, I know, and I guess there's also like so the big sports you follow other than soccer is primarily
The NHL
hockey. Yeah,
that happened last year when Johnny Gaudreau of the Columbus Blue Jackets and his brother were killed. They were on bikes and they were hit by a car. And for the entirety of the 2024-2025 NHL season, the tributes were paid. Anytime the Blue Jackets came to town, there was a moment of silence. And I think we can expect something similar for Liverpool games and even Wolves, who
yeah.
the team that Liverpool acquired him from. I saw today for the City game, they put a large tifo out for Diego and Andre Silva.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was a truly remarkable moment of like
Unity,
togetherness that was profoundly meaningful in a
absolutely.
big way. And I think, I mean, it's a bit of an awkward transition, but I do think it is a good transition to what Liverpool did this summer. Um, because this was quite for like this kind of reminded me a bit of actually the summer of um I'm not sure. Like this kind of remind me of both the summer of 2017 and the summer of 2018, and it was like all in one because I mean I mean obviously we brought in Mamardashvili last summer, but he was on loan, so he came back in. We brought in Frimpong and Kirkez as
Yeah,
wing backs.
Liverpool notably spent big this summer. So I
We
mean,
did.
what
Yeah.
do you see with coming from last summer where it was relatively quiet for Liverpool and
Yeah.
everybody was like, how's Arne Slot going to do with basically just this the Jurgen Klopp team and not bringing a lot of people in, obviously, and unfortunately they went on to win the league. But now we're really seeing Liverpool pony up the cash to say, okay, we're going to spend big here. And so the way I'm taking it is, Liverpool are serious about defending their title. And I mean, what do you see from these guys in terms of what they bring to Liverpool?
So I mean, I guess I'm just gonna go player by player with the players I've seen a few times. So like I'm gonna start with Kirkez and Frimpong. I think last season, one of our weaknesses was left back. And I think it was like Robertson was still really good when he could either play once a week or for like 60 minutes of a game, but he couldn't play he's gotten to the point where like especially for a player who his relentless running is a huge part of his game. He couldn't play. He couldn't be a like nailed on starter for important league game and an important Champions League game and then another important league game all in a week. That was too much, which I mean happens to everyone. Um, and so like there were a few moments where he just got caught a little bit with his lack of speed. And Kirkes seems like he is a very good replacement. He's fast, he's energetic, he has a good touch. He isn't quite as polished as Robertson was towards the end, but he's still really young. And I think a rotation of him as the primary and Robertson as the secondary is probably slightly better than Robertson as the primary and Tsimikas as the secondary last season.
Yeah, that's where
I
United,
am,
that bench depth is certainly where United struggle because our medical team, I swear to God, I want them all fired and thrown in prison with the key melted down because it seems like we could not avoid injuries. And,
yeah.
so having that bench depth is absolutely critical, especially like we were talking about earlier with congested
Oh
schedules.
yeah, so many fucking games.
This is I feel like this is probably going to be a norm. I mean it sounds like from what you're telling me, Liverpool's got a kid that's quality and he can become better. But again, this needing this bench strength, I think, is going to really be, just it's going to become a necessity for every team in the future.
I
But
mean, that's
try
how
to go on
City
that
won
tangent.
4
Yeah, exactly.
titles in
The
a row.
City time four, Chelsea having 10 starting 11s,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that bullshit. But yeah, so
yeah,
sorry to cut you off there. What you got
yeah.
for the next couple players?
Yeah, so I mean, losing Trent was a big deal because like Trent was our number one creative force, and he had this. I think a lot of players. I've noticed this like compared to when I started watching, a lot fewer players are willing to play a longer pass with their off foot because players are a lot of players are kind of afraid of making mistakes. And Trent had this, I'm just gonna try something and see if it works, which like you need a spectacular amount of
Yeah,
talent
sometimes you
for.
just got to send it.
Yeah. And so like yeah, so Frimpong is a very different player. Like he is much more of a wing back. He's much faster than Trent. I think he's better defensively than Trent. And he is not going to be able to play the balls that Trent could, but he is going to be able to make a lot of runs that Trent couldn't. And I think that's going to work out really well with how I think our team is looking. The big guy is Florian Wirtz, who does have that I'm just going to try something that Trent had. He plays a different position, but I do think like our midfield is almost like we have a 6, an 8, and a 10. And I think McAllister and so like Gravenberg is our primary six. Endo can also be a six, and I think McAllister can fill in as a six if needs be, but it's not his best. For the eight, I mean McAllister is probably going to be our primary eight, but Sabazlai can also be a really good eight. Um, and then Verts is probably going to be our primary 10, but McAllister can also be a really good 10, especially if you want him to, if it's in a position where we need a lot more pressing and a lot less playmaking from that position. So I think there'll be some pretty good rotation there. Um, from what I've seen of Ekatike, I really like him, and to the point where I'm thinking I'm much more. I'm not sure we could get like I'll be psyched if we get Isak, but I'm not sure we really need him.
That saga has been absolutely mental. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Oh yeah.
it's made for some pretty quality memes out there saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
this just
It
in. He's
has.
put a restraining order on Eddie Howe, so we can't be within
Yeah.
500 meters of him."
Yeah.
That
I
it
mean,
made
I
for
also
quality
like
content, but like
it,
you kind of know where
yeah,
Isak's mind is, and he's an absolutely bang up striker. I mean, as much he
he is. I don't love this behavior. Like if he comes to us and he starts scoring goals, I'll forgive it in a second. I'll be like, yeah, absolutely. Do what you had to do to get here. I don't love the look of it now. I also so like one thing that I think is really good is when I look at our attacking unit, if we have versus the 10, got Ekatike and Gakpo on the left. Or well, I mean Ekitike is central, but he does like to drift off to the left. I think Gakpo's playmaking is something we haven't really taken advantage of enough in recent years, but I think we can do more with like Perkez and coming out the side, the left is going to be really good as a place to originate stuff with. And then you can kind of, and that creates a lot of space for both Salah and Frimpong to run in on the right, especially when you have a player like Wirtz who can get the ball to where it needs to go. So I think that's going to be really interesting. I also, I mean, I think Chiesa getting that goal was really helpful for him. I haven't seen him play too much. What I've seen of him, I like. I'm not sure he's like the most clinical finisher in the world, but he does seem to get into really dangerous positions. And I mean, I do think a big thing is just the more dangerous positions we can get into, the more we can create. Although, like, just thinking about the players we lost this summer, like, obviously, unfortunately, we did lose Jota, who is just such a valuable player because he could play in all three of the places along the front line and offer something different, which is like that versatility is so valuable. And he was just an absolute poacher in the best way. Um, I mean, losing Diaz is also like his work rate was just spectacular. I get why he moved. It was probably a good thing for both clubs that he did. Gets that big salary increase. We get a big inflow of cash. It does. He's a player I would like to have because he could also like he was I think last season it took him a bit of time to like get used to being the like nine rather than a winger, but
Yeah, but
he
he never
played really
lost that
well.
tenacity about him. So
No,
that is
yeah,
definitely a loss that would be felt. I mean, and
yeah,
then also like in terms of you having those attacking options, that's honestly what's got me excited about the three big ones that we got in. I mean, especially because it looks like, hey, well, if Cunha and Mbeo, I'm still having trouble pronouncing his
yeah,
name as I do with a lot of names, but the other question really is like, what's this going to mean for Bruno? Because he can hit a goal from just about anywhere. And
yeah,
so, and then also Sesko up there, if he, however he hits the ground, if he hits the ground running, then fantastic. You got a target man and a striker that knows how to do it. I've admittedly not seen a whole lot of him, but from what I like you, what I have seen, it's like, yeah, there's definitely promise here. So, I'm excited to
yeah.
see where that's going to be in terms of what he's going to bring to this United squad.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say is there's no league in the world where strikers get less time in front, like less time to make a decision. Like that's I I love Darwin Nunez is one of the most likable players to have on your team because he never stops running, he never stops going, and he is full throttle trying to get good things to happen. The problem he just, I think, adjusting from the time he had in Portugal as compared to the time he had in the Premier League, it was just he couldn't, he didn't quite get adjusted enough to it to the point where he could be a consistent top striker. And so, like, I mean, on the one hand, I think he's better than the Saudi Pro League. On the other hand, get that bag. Um, like,
I have
absolutely
a
get
hard
that
time
bag.
blaming him for that one. I mean,
No,
and then also on that note too, that was Rasmus Holland kind of Hoyland had that about has that about him because he knows how to get in those spaces. It's just there's always that asterisk. What's he going to do with it?
yeah.
You
And there's also, I do think strikers sometimes mature a bit later than, like, I think of Salah when he first came to the league with Chelsea, he couldn't quite work it out. But then like he came back and when he was like 25, 26 with us and he became the best player in Premier League history. Um,
I'm
and
sorry. Did you just say the best player in Premier League history?
yeah,
Okay.
he's
I don't know.
better than Henri.
That is a bold claim there. Would you put him ahead of Stevie?
Yeah. I mean, Steve, so okay.
I mean, apples and
Steven
oranges.
Gerrard is
You know what I'm getting at.
yeah, Steven Gerrard is and but I also so Steven Gerrard is, in
Man,
my
this is
opinion,
news to me, Josh. I didn't know you had
this
this take in you.
So, Steven Gerrard is the second greatest Liverpool player ever after Kenny Dalglish, or second most important Liverpool player. Because what Steven Gerrard did
Hmm.
is he basically kept Liverpool relevant during the worst ownership period in our history.
I didn't know I'd be day
Uh,
drinking this early. God damn. But I've got a
yeah,
counter in a second. But yeah, that's
yeah.
definitely
So,
a
but
valid
like,
point.
I mean, Mo Salah, he has won more trophies than uh Henry. I mean, he's won a lot more trophies than Gerrard. He's scored more, like the only players who have scored more Premier League goals than him are Shearer, Kane, and Rooney. And all three
Yeah.
of those guys spent their entire career in the Premier League. Um, and
I
I
don't
think,
think I think that weighs in their favor because honestly, I'm still putting Waza ahead of Rennie. I mean, I'm putting Waza ahead of Salah. I kind of have to, but also just he went through especially staying in the Premier League as opposed to taking a break in Serie A and resting your legs a little bit because it certainly we're seeing Serie A kind of creep up a little bit in terms of the competitiveness across everything else, but and they still are nowhere near those early Premier League days. And by I shouldn't even say early Premier League day. No, yes,
well,
I
in
should.
terms of the physicality,
In terms of the physicality, the wear and tear, and then also just the evolution of how teams came in. Because Waza playing, coming in as a young Everton kid and then leaving in the late 20 teens. He's been showing that season in and season out he could do it, and that's even switching positions. Going from a true out and out striker to kind of going in that 10 position. He even played in the midfield under Van Hall. Like, wait, he sat back.
yeah. But so here's Salah. Um, Like Salah was the first, he broke that record that was shared with Ronaldo and Suarez, and I think Shearer as well, of the 32 goals or in a season.
Yeah.
Um, and then, I mean, obviously Haaland has broken that since, but Salah has also
What
multiple
we did.
times been the top scorer and top assister in the league. He's done that twice. Um, I think like this is something that we have to like we'll have to have an episode where we full on go into who is the greatest player in Premier League history.
Oh, geez.
Um, but I
That
I
won't be
think
vengeance.
yeah, it will be. I mean, yeah, we I like I remember a few years ago I felt like it was kind of nailed on that the best player in Premier League history was Thierry Henry. And I think now, I think it's primarily a Liverpool fan perspective that Salah is better than Henri was.
You and Jamie Carragher would get along great.
Maybe. I mean, Carragher has some takes that I'm like, wow. But
Like,
that's beside the point. But yeah, I guess but also going back to the Liverpool season one, like I really like this Leone kid that we brought in from Italy. I think he is from just what I've been able to find out about him, he seems like a really, really top quality young center back prospect. And especially like we are very thin there. Um, it looked like Konate has picked up a little bit of an injury. I haven't seen any of that confirmed, but his gait when he was running looked a bit different to how it has. And like we just losing Kwanzaa, we are we're a bit thin at that position, and we like when you completely remake a back line, it takes a good amount of time to figure out how everyone plays together because um, like with attackers, like yes, it's still a unit, but it's also like one of the things you do is you try and get people into places where they can use their advantages. Where when you're a back line, you're more trying to work as a unit to make sure that no one's weaknesses can be particularly well exposed. And so with two new wing backs, or not like I guess fullbacks coming in, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, and I think we're going to concede more goals than you would expect for at least the first 10 games. And that's even assuming everyone is healthy. Um,
yeah, that honestly,
so
that
I,
the back line remaking is just so critical. I mean, especially when we're without Lissandro Martinez or even in Maguire, who in recent years is really on the redemption path. Love me some Harry. He's honestly remaking those back lines is just simply critical. And like you said, it's like it's that old adage, a striker needs to get lucky once, but the back line has to be lucky all the time.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think of like, so 2019-20 won the league, walked the league with 99 points, beat everyone. Um, 2020, 2021, all of our center backs got injured, took an Allison goal to get third. And we were like very behind the pace. Then 2021-22, our center backs are back. We're coming as close to a quadruple as any team has ever come. Like losing the league by 1 point, losing the Champions League final by the best goalkeeping performance I've ever seen. Fucking Courtois. And like that, so like that's like having your back unit working well together is just it's one of the hardest things to get right, and it's um one of the most important. So I think that's why and I think as we get to like looking at what we see for the season overall, I actually think we have a better chance of winning the Champions League than the Premier League this season. Because I think while we get fully acclimatized over the first part of the season, um, we we'll drop a few too many points to if like City looks like they're back. Like they've gotten a lot of really good players in. Rodri looks like he's back. Rodri had a version of the injury Van Dijk had that wasn't quite as bad as what Van Dijk had, but now that he's back, I expect him to be as comparable to himself as Van Dijk was the year off, which like not 100%, but still really fucking good. And then Arsenal, like I I have a hard t I
This is
really
really the
hate
big
the
storyline in the
yeah,
league at the moment. It's
yeah.
like, it's, Liverpool is one of the favorites, and it seems like the rest of the camp is kind of going toward Arsenal. But honestly, Arsenal and they just something always happens every season to where they just cannot get it over the line. And I just with that, just with that being the case over the last season, a couple seasons when they've been performing well, I don't know what it's going to take for them to get over the hump, and I just don't see it this year. I mean, I might be eating my words come the end of the season.
Hopefully not. The
Hopefully
idea of
not. Yeah.
Arteta being a Premier League winning manager is repugnant to me. Um,
But this
like
really is on the Arteta point. Like this is really a do or die season for him because
yeah,
he's been there since what 2017
2019, I think, maybe 2018, maybe 2019. Yeah, I mean he's won that one trophy, which was the COVID FA Cup. Um,
and United from the
and
Pantera. How many we got?
yeah, yeah, no, I mean it's but so okay. Um, because like so here's the thing. Klopp was was a sore loser. Pep was a sore loser. Sir Alex was a sore loser. Um, Jose Mourinho was a really fucking sore loser. Um, but I think if you if you demonstrate that you are capable of managing a team that is capable of beating the world, um, you and I guess I haven't seen Slot really lose, but I have no expectation that he will be a particularly gracious loser. Because I think like to be at that level of top manager, you have to be a bit of a maniac and like a bit, you can't be someone who takes losing well because you have to be like maniacal in your hatred of losing. The
I think,
difference is
yeah,
like
no, and
those guys
honestly, definitely,
won
yeah. And
and
I would
they
say,
won like by doing amazing things. Arteta is a sore loser, but he hasn't earned the right to be a sore loser, if that makes sense.
and honestly, actually, what you just put in my head is, I think, one thing for this season that I think is going to be really revealing. It's how is Slot going to defend? Slot and Amorim, they're under scrutiny for different reasons, and Slot's like, how am I going to come out and defend this title? I guarantee that you and the rest of the Liverpool fan base are like, okay, we won last year. How are we going to keep this going? Us United fans, we're what I'm looking at, and I can't speak for everyone, but what I'm certainly looking at is Amram, okay, now we got signings. You got more time with the players. How are we going to improve? And
So
so
yeah, I mean, I think Amrin is under a bit more pressure because winning the Premier League
get leeway with
is
that.
a like that gets you a lot of credit. With Amarin, I think like the one of the most important thing he did last season was he got the vibes right with like the interaction between him and the relationship between him and the fans because the results were pretty repugnant. But like the vibes,
Pretty.
vibes are a pretty good foundation. Like that's one thing Klopp, the first thing he did that really like impacted was he made the Liverpool fans like I remember like seeing some of the first Klopp press conferences and when he had the players go over to apologize to the fans and then applaud the fans when like, I was like, oh my God, I would
During
kill
our
for this
college days,
man.
you were telling me a lot about this. Like,
Yeah.
like you would defend Jurgen Klopp to the cows come home, but like, he was a manager who, in your eyes, just going back to our college years, who you really thought highly of. I don't, I kind of had a wait and see thing about United managers. You, on the other hand, right off the bat with Jurgen, you were just like, I can't get enough of the guy.
I mean that's a very important thing. And I mean I don't so obviously like number one, it's United, so I don't like them. But like Amarin and Amarin isn't Klopp, but Amarin has done a very good job of, I feel like, conveying to the United fans that like what he wants is what you want, and what he is seeing was pissing him off to no end. And I think it was, and it's like, okay, like this is like I feel like both like Tom to you and my brother, who's a big United fan, is like you were like, I'm liking what this Amarin guy is saying and
The
doing.
genes in the family went to the younger one.
I mean, I'm a second generation Liverpool fan. I don't know what my brother was smoking. But that's I guess but like the getting that connection is so important because it's
Certainly.
really unless you're Pep coming into Man City and you're like, oh, by De Bruyne and all these other amazing players,
Mhm.
it's gonna take a while to, and even with Pep coming into Man City, that first season, they weren't close to Chelsea. Um, but like by the second season, they were like, all right, we're just gonna walk the league and get 100 points and um, win by a pretty substantial margin. So like, and also like City fans, well, fans aren't
Chelsea fans.
yeah aren't the same. But like, I think Amarin has connected. But the thing is, if the like because of the way he connected, you guys could get what were you 15th last season?
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, you guys could come 15th, lose the final to Spurs, and the United fans were like, good things are coming. I trust Amarin. If this season, like it's especially like I think like if
We have to see something.
yeah,
It's plain
yeah.
and simple. We have to see improvement, which again, I think we're going to see it, and so I expect us to, I'm with my cautious optimism. I'm expecting, we're probably going to be in. Realistically, I mean, I would love to say yes, we're in league contention, but that would simply just not make any sense to anyone. So I realistically seeing us, in somewhere in the Europa League areas, whether it's the fifth or sixth area. I mean, of course, other squads have strengthened, but it's really what really it's going to come down to, how much the players meshing together under this Amarim system. He's had more time with them. He's had time over the summer. We got new players in, so I think I have reasons for optimism here.
Yeah, and I mean the one of the good things about your schedule, the way it is like if you guys are like when you get through the first like 5 or 6, 7 games, you've played a lot of hard teams. You've lost some of those games, but you've played well in them. I think the fans will stick with you because it's like there's no if you guys like let's say tomorrow you guys lose 2-1 in a competitive game to Arsenal. I don't think United fans will be particularly discouraged by that.
Oh,
And
just because it's Arsenal.
yeah, yeah, I mean, but then also like you can um when like because there'll be stretches of easier games, and especially when you've played a lot of the hard games early, you'll be able to like stack results in a way like if it's the real deal, you'll be able to stack results in a way that gets you into a good position, but also just like the feeling of rising up the table is really encouraging. Like I'm thinking back to the 2020-2021 season, which was like the COVID asterisk one because there were no fans for the whole season rather than just after the season was basically already done. Um, is you like I remember like there was one point I think we were like seventh or eighth, and it looked like the possibility of being in the Champions League
Was gone. Yeah, I
was
remember that.
slim to none. And I remember like that feeling of we kind of got in a run and we kept winning and we kept winning and we moved up. And like that was I think really instrumental in having such a great season the next year because by the end of the season, the fans were like, fuck yeah, we love this team. We love them so much. We're so hyped and we're just ready to go. And like that momentum can carry forward. Um, Whereas like also like if the fans get a bit discouraged, that momentum can also carry forward in a bad way. But so the one thing I will say, and as much as Arsenal when it like just like Arsenal's I don't know, I didn't used to
Yeah,
hate
I really
Arsenal,
don't.
but I just like the online fans being such um like once again sore losers without having earned the right to be.
Without merit. Yeah.
Yeah. Like them, like, but I do like Gyökeres seems, and like once again, I don't watch a lot of the Portuguese league, but from what I've seen of him, from what I've read about him, it seems like he is the real deal, and it also just like as an upgrade over what they had in that position. Like they have the ability to get balls into dangerous positions. And if you have the ability to get balls into dangerous positions and a player who can get into dangerous positions and finish from those positions, that is a really dangerous
There's
combination.
and there's the caveat because I mean last season Bruno made the most chances of anyone in the Premier League, but there was simply just no one there to finish them.
Yeah.
But
Um,
he's able to keep performing, and Sesko's able to connect. And we also have the threat of Mbeo, who's got a good goal tally from last season. So and Cunha, who's able to make it happen. I do think we're going to be in a much better place than last year because scoring simply was our weakest link in the chain.
yeah, and I mean if you score a lot, scoring a lot of goals can paper over a lot of other issues. But I do like Arsenal is very, very solid defensively. They're very good at set pieces, and they do maintain possession pretty well. So if they just get like a little better scoring the ball, and especially like if they can stay healthy, they get a few breaks, they could challenge for the league. But I think City is gonna like I think City is back. I think City is um, ready to, and I also like the beating PSG the way they did from Chelsea. Um, that did show me something. I'm not as high on Cole Palmer as a lot of people are. I think people really paper over his inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, I think like the Chelsea squad, they have a lot of depth and they seem to have a way of playing that they've bought into. Um, Also, I guess like just another reason we might not win the league this year is AFCON. Um,
That is true. That is true.
AFCON is like
But yeah,
I do
yeah,
I
yeah.
get why they don't have it's the same with like the Asian Cup is like it's though it would be logistically like it would basically like block off large parts of the continent from hosting if they did it in summer as opposed to doing it in winter. Um, but I don't know, I wish there was a way to um harmonize this because like it's a global game and like the European I think this is also a throwback to when all the leagues in Europe were first primarily just European players and then European and South American players,
Yeah,
and
that
now
was
they're
the gap in
yeah,
it. Like of the top
yeah,
teams, there's just a gap in the squads when
yeah,
AFCON and the Asian
yeah,
Cup roll around because just the talent is emerging from those areas of
yeah,
the world.
yeah. And I mean, it makes sense. Like those are yeah, Africa and Asia are the two most populous continents in the world. Um, and so I think there has to be some rethinking of that. Like I do think the Premier League like now has a winter break. I think like there would some coordination would have to happen. The problem is I also think that a lot of these like because it's different committees, I guess it's because UEFA doesn't want there to stop being UEFA games
Mhm.
during the part of the year they feel like they own. So I don't know how to solve that, but that is I think that's something that's going to be more of an issue over time. Um, but yeah,
I think the direction where we were going, I think this is a good point to wrap up on, is like just whether it's, across the league or just the big things we expect to see this season. So we touched on a little bit. I mean, you seem to think City is back, and I agree a little bit. I mean, it was kind of shocking to see them drop off last season, and I think a good portion of that has to come from their pending lead for the ongoing litigation they're facing. And
hopefully.
I want those charges to drop so quickly. Just throw the goddamn book at them and punish them. And I mean, we've spoken at this at length, external to this, where we were saying, 115 charges. Like if City walks on these, very dangerous legal precedents are going to be set for the clubs across the Premier League. So I just don't see them, simply walking on this one. I mean, I would like them to get punished to the fullest extent, but we know how City's legal team operates. They can have a good portion of them dropped, however they defend it, but nonetheless, I want them to face the full consequences of their actions for what they've done. And I mean, I know that consensus is across, especially the teams competing for the league, the Liverpools of the world, especially in the, historical enmity. And then in terms of that, I mean, enough on the City thing because that literally is a whole discussion in and of itself. But in terms of teams who I think are kind of honestly, I can see Chelsea jockeying for a good spot. I mean,
Yeah.
they now, they've had their manager for a whole season now. I mean, I'm not even going to say winning the Club World Cup is an indicator because it's a crock of shit. But they have the players from, they can field a whole lot of, they have a whole lot of players. They have talent. So it's, if Chelsea is able to make this work, I can easily see them contending for quite a high spot on the table.
Yeah.
Um, and then Tottenham's going to Tottenham. Lads, it's Tottenham.
I mean, hopefully. Yeah, although I would I would get so much just because of the fucking fans online. I would get a lot of joy from from Tottenham finishing above Arsenal. Hopefully that's like
Honestly, just for the internet content alone, I would love that.
hopefully that is 19th and 20th, but I doubt it.
Oh, the absolute menace to society I would become if that happened.
Yeah, no, that would be wonderful. But yeah,
What about you? Got any saved rounds for how you think the season's gonna go?
I mean I think I think I think before the first international break, I think the table is gonna I think City and Arsenal are gonna I think City's gonna be top of the league. I think Arsenal is gonna be I think we're gonna draw with Arsenal when we play them match week 3. I wait, let me actually check because if it's at the Emirates, I think we're drawing. I think we can win if we are it's uh it is oh no, it's at Anfield. So I really like if we can win that, then it's huge. But yeah, no, so it's already end of the month. There's the first international break. Um, I just what I really want for this
Oh yeah.
season is to not be able to say injuries played a role in the outcome. I would really like I mentioned this briefly earlier. I would really love if at least one of the promoted teams stayed up. Um, although I mean Leeds has to go down because Leeds getting promoted is highly correlated with us winning the league. So that's a very important thing to see.
If I can use
Um,
some otherworldly powers to make sure leads go down and stay down and just keep falling, I would love it. Just because for the historical entity. I mean,
yeah,
my favorite welcome back to the Premier League the season. When was it? This was probably this was COVID era. I know that because there were no fans in the stadium. Us pumping them for 6 goals. That was great.
yeah. No, I mean the Leeds fans are rabid. Mostly, I mean, in a way that you can appreciate, but they are crazy about their team. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to see Sunderland up, but like now that they're up, I remember I don't really like Sunderland. I-
Yeah,
Like
no,
it's
go back to making your Netflix documentary
yeah,
somewhere
yeah,
else. Let's see who else is in contention to go down. I don't even know, man.
yeah. I mean, I think Wolves have. I mean, I don't pay that close attention. I think Wolves have gotten a bit better. I think like people were saying Bournemouth just because they lost three defenders.
That
But
has been,
they,
I have seen that online, and I know a lot
but
of people are kind of hedging their bets that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they played really well against us yesterday. Like I was really impressed by the way they defend because they're still so disciplined.
My question really is, can they maintain that?
Yeah, no, yeah, because that's very true. Because I mean, it's the first game of the season, and the games are going to come thick and fast. But I would imagine for all of the teams that see relegation as a possibility, they will like absolutely put up their like youth teams in the cups, like not care at all because
Why should they
staying
at
in the
that
Premier
point?
League. What?
Yeah, like why should they at that point?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know, it's gonna be, but I think if the precedent is set that three seasons in a row, it's three up, three down,
Hmm.
um, then the Premier League starts to be a de facto closed shop. And
Yeah,
that's not good for anyone. Like the threat of relegation does make everything more important. And it makes it like
yeah,
I would
like
like the relegation battle to like not be settled until late in the season as well, because that's like one of my favorite memories from the 22-23 season, which was not a great season for us. Obviously, 7-0 was my favorite memory from that season.
I
Uh,
remember that.
yeah, I'll send you some highlights later. Um, but
Careful, you're
one of my favorite memories was we played Leicester near the end of the season, and they were doing some tragedy chanting, and then we beat them and essentially ensured their relegation, and that was very satisfying. Um,
Honestly, I remember when Burnley came up last time. I didn't see anything from them to indicate it. Of course, that was 2 years ago at this point. So
yeah,
it's really going to be interesting to see if what they're going to bring to the table. I mean, it seems like it really is a revolving door for those teams.
yeah,
how are they going to react? What are they going to do different to be like we're staying in the league this year?
yeah. Which like it's because it's I don't know. Last season it was pretty cool to see Forest like they had like barely escaped relegation, and then they like got up and they were like they had a really good season. Like obviously they lost a bit of steam towards the end, but it was cool to see. Um,
Yeah,
although
I think
Arne Slot is still fucking
that's a very
furious
big
with them.
question mark for Nuno right now.
Yeah, because their ownership is also seems like a bit of a mess.
Yeah, and honestly, it's going to be interesting to see. Nottingham Forest, like how are they going to maintain that momentum from last season? Because I don't think there's like a middle ground that they can face. It's either they're gonna they only have two ways to go, and that's they're going to maintain that momentum and finish, relatively similar to the way they did in the previous season, or that steam dies off and then they go down. I mean, I'm really interested to see how that one's going to play out.
Yeah, and I think they have a lot more games this year because of the Europa League.
That is
Um,
true, and so that's going to play a big role. I mean, Leicester did stay up with the year they were in the Champions League, and they went on quite a bit of a run there. And so,
yeah,
this is, I mean, Forest do have European silverware to their name, but it's been quite a while, like Stain said in their song. So, are they going to be able to balance, what's required to compete in the Premier League as well as, go the distance in the Champions League because I mean I guarantee their ownership is probably just breathing down, Espirito Santo's neck, going like, "You are going to deliver in the Champions League. Like we cannot be
Yeah,
seen as simply forfeiting because the Europa League. My bad. We are
yeah,
going to be seen as competing here. Otherwise, because this is a big rallying point for Nottingham Forest.
yeah. No, I mean, I think that's I'm so happy the season is back. Like I've missed
If I had another
missing
beer, I would have cracked it open and
yeah,
said, "Let's go 25-26."
I've missed setting my deciding whether I'm going to be happy over a week based on my own actions. It's much easier to have it set by these millionaires running around a pitch in
Yep, and
England and Europe.
for us stateside, it's going to be a lot of
Oh yeah.
early mornings, whether it's going to be sitting on the sofa with coffee, getting it ready, or just going down to the bars that are nice enough to open for us fans here in the 50 stars. We will see. But honestly, it is back, and it's been a long one. And me not supporting a team of any other sport besides the Premier League or the NHL, it's been a long summer without good competitive sports to watch here in the stateside, and I am absolutely fired for this one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I mean, as a Wizards fan, nothing is like, yeah, I guess the NBA season was happening, but Jesus Christ, it was sad. And then obviously, like, yeah, track is going on this summer, which is great, but it's on Flow Track, and fuck Flow Track. Um, I'm not paying $30 a month to watch like two meets a year. Or no, okay, like one or two meets a month, but like yeah, it's good. It's good to have this back. Um, we will I guess be back for another episode sometime soon.
Hopefully,
Thanks
we
for
get some guests in because
yeah.
I think we got a couple people in our social circles that would definitely bring some good stuff to the table. And I mean, obviously, this is just kind of setting the stage for what's to come. But I think certainly as the season goes on and we have more stuff to talk about, we should also get some people in here to discuss what they see.
Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, I mean I am like I love the Premier League, but I am every weekend I'm gonna be watching Liverpool's game and maybe one or two others. And I'll be seeing highlights for everything else. But like I will know Liverpool, I will know what we're doing, and I'm gonna know who we play against. But it'll be helpful to have some other people just because
Yep.
like it's hard to learn as much about a team that you don't follow obsessively as opposed to one you do, and it's easy to follow a team obsessively if you love it.
True. I think we've got a lot down for this first one. So 2025, 2026 season, we're excited.
All right. I'm gonna stop.